It was an effort by the government to extirpate all predators from the American West. The only predator to increase its numbers, the adaptable coyote.
Texas was facing a quiet but dangerous problem. Coyotes, moving in huge numbers, roamed the fields at night, scaring farmers and destroying their work. These smart predators attacked livestock, ruined crops, and caused millions of dollars in damage every year. Ordinary hunting and traps barely slowed them down because the animals learned, adapted, and kept multiplying faster than anyone could handle. Farmers were worried, their farms at risk, wondering if there was any way to beat a predator that seemed unstoppable. So, how did they finally fight back? And could their plan work in other places too? Join us in this video as we reveal the details. The 2 million coyotes that made Texas farmers fear the night. Coyotes are part of North America's most successful and resourceful predators, living in both crowded cities and wide deserts. Nearly every large city, including New York City and Los Angeles, is home to these species. Coyotes are very adaptable in their habitat selection, having learned to live in parks, suburbs, and even urban downtown districts, in contrast to many other wild animals that shun human activities. Coyotes are designed for endurance and speed. They can run up to 43 miles per hour and cover large distances at a constant pace of about 20 miles per hour. When pursuing prey, their streamlined body and leg muscles let them move fast, turn sharply, and stop fast. They are very successful hunters in a range of settings because of these physical traits. The reaction of coyote populations to human hunting is among the most shocking features. Coyotes always increase their rate of reproduction in response to human attempts to decrease their population. In addition to having larger litters and a higher percentage of births, females begin reproducing earlier in life. Because of this capacity, known as compensatory reproduction, hunting attempts to lower their population can sometimes result in ingrowth rather than a decline. Also, hybrid coyotes, also known as coy wolves, have become more common, especially in eastern Canada and the northeastern United States. These creatures are a cross between domestic dogs, wolves, and coyotes. Compared to western coyotes, coy wolves are larger and mix the adaptability of coyotes with the strength and hunting prowess of wolves. Because of their mixed ancestry, they may be less afraid of people and more adaptable to both urban and wild environments. Coyotes are incredibly adaptable and can live in a lot of environments. They inhabit icy northern regions, scorching deserts, and all points in between. They adapt by changing their hunting tactics, nutrition, and daily routines. They consume what is available when food is scarce. Coyotes may switch to evening behavior if people are busy during the day. They can flourish in almost any setting thanks to their adaptability. Another important strength is communication. Coyotes have a rich voice system that includes up to 11 distinct sounds, each of which has a distinct meaning. In order to frighten competitors or plan a hunt, a single coyote can create cries that appear to be from a bigger group. Some groups even acquire distinctive regional dialects, which seem to be picked up from neighbors. They have a big advantage thanks to their senses. Because of a reflecting coating in their eyes, coyotes have remarkable night vision, which enables them to see in low light. The soft undercoat they shed in the spring is used by birds for nesting, and their thick double coat keeps them warm in the winter and keeps water out. Coyotes exhibit sophisticated social behavior as well. Several establish long-term partnerships that endure for several years, sharing duties including territory defense and hunting. Older siblings assist in caring for younger pups, and packs frequently contain progeny from prior years. The group is strengthened and survival rates are raised as a result of this cooperation. Hunting techniques differ based on the terrain and prey. Coyotes have a precise jumping technique to capture small creatures, such as mice, which they pursue exclusively. Cooperative packs may be used to hunt larger animals, such deer. In order to safely navigate human environments, urban coyotes have also evolved techniques. They use quiet pathways, traffic patterns, and lights to avoid people while still locating food. In Texas, coyotes have grown to be a major problem for farmers, upsetting animals and endangering livelihoods. According to reports, these crafty predators started focusing more frequently on tiny agricultural animals, eluding conventional defenses like guard animals and fences. Farmers suffered severe losses when entire flocks of sheep or goats were apparently attacked in a single night. Farmers were compelled to respond decisively due to the animals' intellect, speed, and adaptability, which led to a change to more strategic hunting techniques. In response, farmers used a variety of strategies to take back control of their properties. Hunters always used firearms, positioning raised blinds or ambush locations along well-known coyote paths. Coyotes were sometimes caught alive in traps, so they could be moved or taken out of dangerous locations. Using thermal scopes and red light torches to detect nocturnal movements without frightening the animals, night hunting became commonplace. Furthermore, some farms employed trained guard dogs to entice coyotes toward traps or hunters, in addition to protecting livestock. In many areas, these efforts worked together across nearby farms, resulting in a system of pressure that helped farmers lower coyote activity and prevent more losses. Over time, observers saw a huge reduction in predation incidences when firearms, traps, and nighttime tracking were used in tandem. Coyotes learned to avoid heavily watched areas, and livestock losses decreased as a result of the methods, which farmers said took careful preparation, patience, and cooperation. This reaction showed how Texas farmers were able to adapt and be creative in the face of a persistent and astute predator. Could other wildlife be posing equally complicated challenges that need fresh approaches and concerted action? Given that coyotes have already presented Texas farmers with their smart and tireless adaptability, let's delve deeper. The rising threat of feral hogs in Texas. Across Texas, a serious and costly problem has been spreading for many years, and it has affected farmers, ranchers, and even people living in cities. The issue is the massive population of feral hogs now roaming the state.
Researchers found that Texas has the worst feral hog problem in the entire country.
Current estimates place the number at more than 2 million animals. That is not a small wildlife concern. That is a population large enough to impact entire regions, industries, and communities in ways that are difficult to control. The financial damage alone is overwhelming. Agricultural losses have been measured at approximately $119 million per year in recent data. When broader impacts such as property damage, infrastructure repair, and long-term crop loss are included, projections show that total losses could approach $500 million. These figures represent more than numbers on a page. They reflect destroyed crops, repeated labor, wasted fuel, broken fencing, damaged irrigation systems, and lost time that farmers cannot recover. The roots of this problem stretch back centuries. Feral hogs are not native to North America. They were introduced by European explorers and settlers who released pigs into the wild as a reliable food source during travel and settlement. Over time, some animals escaped, some were abandoned, and others adapted successfully to the wild. Later, European wild boar were brought into the United States for sport hunting. These animals interbred with existing feral pigs, creating a hybrid that is larger, stronger, more intelligent, and extremely adaptable. Texas proved to be the perfect environment for these animals. The state offers warm temperatures, abundant water sources, thick brush for cover, and vast stretches of farmland. These conditions allowed hog populations to expand rapidly. Unlike many native wildlife species, feral hogs reproduce at a remarkable rate. Females can produce multiple litters per year, and each litter may contain several piglets. With few natural predators capable of controlling adult hogs, populations grew steadily. The damage they cause is not limited to simple surface disruption. Feral hogs root aggressively through soil in search of food. They dig up newly planted seeds, tear apart young crops, and trample large sections of farmland. Corn is often the preferred target, but soybeans, wheat, and other crops are also affected. Entire fields can be destroyed in a single night. Farmers sometimes replant multiple times within one growing season, absorbing additional costs each time. Beyond farmland, hogs damage pastures, weaken levees, and destroy hay fields used to feed livestock. Their rooting behavior leaves land uneven and unsafe for equipment and animals. In urban areas, they tear up lawns, parks, and school grounds. Neighborhoods on the edges of cities have reported hog activity near residential spaces, creating safety concerns as well as property damage. Attempts to manage the population using traditional methods have struggled to keep pace with growth. Individual farmers have set traps, used bait, and relied on hunting with dogs or firearms. Some have removed hundreds of hogs in a year. Yet despite those efforts, surrounding populations often replace the losses within months. Feral hogs are highly intelligent. They learn to avoid traps, shift their feeding times, and change movement routes when pressure increases. One of the greatest challenges has been fragmentation. For years, control efforts were isolated. One farm might attempt removal, while a neighboring property allowed hogs to remain for recreational hunting. One county might organize hunts, while the next county took no action. These gaps allowed hogs to relocate easily. Pressure in one area simply pushed the animals to another. As a result, the crisis continued to grow. The problem was not simply about numbers, it was about adaptability, reproduction, and the ability of hogs to exploit weaknesses in management systems. Without coordination, every effort risked being temporary. The animals moved, recovered, and returned. Over time, it became clear that isolated efforts would never be enough. The scale of the problem required a shift in thinking. Instead of reacting to damage after it occurred, landowners and officials began considering broader, synchronized approaches. The fight against feral hogs was no longer just about removing animals. It was about restructuring how the response was organized. With the feral hog population continuing to grow, traditional methods falling short, and isolated efforts proving ineffective, the pressing question became clear. How could Texas shift from scattered reactions to a unified, large-scale strategy capable of finally slowing and controlling the crisis? Stay tuned for more. Coordinated control and long-term strategy. A major shift occurred when communities across Texas began moving from isolated action to coordinated regional campaigns. Rather than acting independently, multiple farms, ranches, and counties started applying control measures at the same time. This reduced the ability of hogs to escape to nearby low-pressure areas. But one of the most important developments in this coordinated strategy has been the use of advanced corral trap systems.
From sniper helicopters to poison and even steel corral traps, humans have tried everything.
These large traps are equipped with cameras and remote gate controls. Operators can monitor hog activity in real time and wait until an entire group, known as a sounder, enters the trap before closing it. This approach prevents partial captures that leave surviving hogs more cautious and trap-resistant. Although installation and maintenance costs can be significant, the investment often offsets the much larger expense of repeated crop loss. Aerial hunting has also become part of the integrated system. Helicopter teams can cover thousands of acres in a matter of hours, identifying bedding areas, movement corridors, and active feeding zones. Compared to ground hunting, which may be limited by terrain and visibility, aerial operations allow rapid response across wide areas. These hunts are most effective when combined with ground trapping and surveillance, creating sustained pressure rather than temporary disruption. Another component involves regulated toxic bait systems. These programs require certification and careful deployment. Specialized feeders are designed to limit access to feral hogs while reducing risks to livestock and non-target wildlife. The process involves gradually conditioning hogs to use the feeders before introducing toxic bait. When applied correctly, entire groups can be eliminated efficiently. While debate continues regarding environmental considerations, this method has demonstrated measurable impact when integrated into broader campaigns. Beyond removal, research efforts are exploring reproductive control as a long-term solution. Scientists are developing methods to reduce fertility by targeting hormonal systems in both male and female hogs. The goal is to lower population growth rates over time rather than relying solely on repeated lethal removal. Delivering contraceptive treatments across vast landscapes presents logistical challenges, but the approach represents a shift toward sustained suppression rather than short-term reduction. Technology has further strengthened control efforts. Thermal imaging equipment has improved night hunting efficiency, allowing hunters to locate animals in darkness and dense vegetation. Drones provide aerial mapping of movement patterns and habitat use. Shared camera networks across properties allow landowners to track herd shifts in real time. Communication between neighboring properties ensures that pressure remains consistent. The results of coordinated multi-method campaigns have been significant. In several regions, hog populations have declined by 60 to 70% within 2 years. Crop losses have decreased accordingly. Urban areas that once experienced frequent hog activity have reported noticeable reductions. Damage has not disappeared entirely, but it has become more manageable and localized. An unexpected outcome of this crisis has been the growth of a new industry centered on feral hog control. Companies now specialize in trap manufacturing, aerial services, thermal imaging equipment, training, and carcass processing. What began solely as an economic burden has evolved into a structured management sector that creates jobs while addressing the ecological threat. The central lesson emerging from Texas is clear. No single method can solve a problem of this scale. Smart traps alone are not enough. Helicopters alone are not enough. Poison alone is not enough. Even reproductive control will not function effectively without coordination. The success has come from integration, combining technology, strategy, and cooperation into a unified system. By closing gaps between properties and maintaining continuous pressure from ground, air, and emerging biological tools, Texas has begun to regain control over a crisis that once seemed unstoppable. The fight is ongoing, but the approach has fundamentally changed. Coordination, not isolation, has proven to be the most powerful tool of all. Could the same strategies used to manage one cunning predator now help Texas farmers tackle the growing problem of clever, fast-moving coyotes? Let's find out. Advanced coyote management in Texas. In Texas, coyotes have grown to be a significant issue for ranchers and farmers. It has been challenging to limit the quantity of these creatures, which harm property, crops, and cattle. Hunting and setting small traps are examples of traditional tactics that always fail to lower numbers and may even spread the issue. For instance, adult male coyotes were typically the target of hunting, because the females, many of whom were raising pups, continued to exist in the population. Removing these males had no effect on reproduction. Hunting occasionally led to coyotes moving to other locations, which made the issue worse. It was difficult to trap as well. Only a few animals could be captured at a time, using little traps, so the others had to see and learn. Coyotes became trap smart very quickly, avoiding cages and encouraging their pups to do the same.
Large litters of pups help compensate for wolf predation.
There were instances of misuse of programs that offered incentives for attacked coyotes. Raising or relocating coyotes to make money was one way that some people attempted to circumvent the system. To put it briefly, these conventional methods didn't work since they used force, instead of considering the behavior and thought processes of coyotes. Farmers and wildlife managers started implementing new tactics based on technology, observation, and planning to deal with these issues. The usage of remote cameras has been one important tool. Managers may monitor coyote movements without disturbing them thanks to these cameras, which transmit real-time images to computers or phones. They can examine travel patterns determine the size of groups, and identify dominant animals by looking at these pictures. Coyotes are allowed to freely enter and settle within large cages that are set up and baited for a few days or weeks. The trap can be remotely set off once everyone is inside. Because no coyotes live to alert others, this approach avoids the trap smart issue. These larger traps enable far higher capture rates and are far more efficient than small cages, which improves population control. Collaboration between landowners and farmers has been another significant development. Individual efforts are sometimes unsuccessful, since coyotes do not respect property lines. These days, farmers track movements across several sites and discuss observations via digital networks like message groups. A farmer can notify nearby farms right away if he spots a bunch of coyotes approaching another farm. Their linked monitoring and response system creates a network of control points that are difficult for coyotes to evade. For larger-scale population management, this partnership has been crucial. Technology, planning, and teamwork have all joined to produce concrete results. Compared to before, farmers who use these techniques report far less harm to crops and livestock. Some farms now record losses that are a fraction of the tens of thousands of dollars they were lost annually. Although coyotes cannot be totally removed, their population can be controlled to save livelihoods and lessen human-coyote conflict. These plans also highlight a crucial idea. Knowing the species, rather than just trying to destroy it, is the key to successful wildlife management.
Another adaptation the coyote has undergone in Yellowstone.
Humans can develop ways to live with them while causing the least amount of harm by researching their behavior, making cautious plans, and cooperating with them. Compared to hunting or trapping alone, technology, patience, and coordination have shown to be significantly more effective. The Texas example demonstrates that, with the correct strategy, even seemingly insurmountable problems can be handled. Although coyotes have lived and adapted to the state for many years, farmers are now able to safeguard their property and cattle through planned trapping, close observation, and concerted action. This method turns a destructive and dangerous animal into a manageable presence, proving that even the most difficult wildlife issues can be solved with knowledge, preparation, and cooperation. In summary, using force or weapons alone is not the answer to managing coyotes. Gathering intelligence, utilizing cutting-edge techniques, and collaborating across communities must be the main priorities instead. By doing this, farmers may coexist with these adaptive predators while controlling populations, minimize harm, and save their livelihoods. The question now becomes, how are American farmers coping with the coyote, another cunning and destructive predator that is spreading across rural regions and endangering crops and animals? Let's learn more. The challenge of coyotes in rural America. Coyotes are wild animals that live in many parts of the United States. They are smart, clever, and very good at surviving in different places. These animals can live in forests, fields, deserts, and even near towns or cities. They are predators, which means they hunt for food. Coyotes will eat small animals like rabbits, birds, and rodents. They also sometimes attack pets, like cats and dogs. In rural areas, they are a big problem because they can hurt or kill livestock. Farmers who raise animals like sheep, goats, and cows often find that coyotes have attacked their animals during the night. Every year, coyotes cause millions of dollars in damage to farms and ranches. Estimates show that their damage reaches about 2 million pounds every year. In 2023, there were about 1,200 reported attacks by coyotes. These attacks caused around 3.5 million pounds in losses. These numbers show that coyotes are not only a nuisance, but a serious threat. They can ruin the hard work of farmers very quickly. For example, a farmer might spend weeks taking care of sheep, feeding them, and keeping them safe, only to lose several of them in one night. Coyotes are fast, strong, and very smart, which makes it difficult to stop them without careful planning. Because coyotes are so adaptable, farmers cannot rely on just one method to deal with them. The government in the United States has created policies to help manage coyote populations. Every year, the government gives out around 500 hunting permits to farmers and professional hunters. These permits are special documents that allow people to hunt coyotes legally. However, there are rules that hunters must follow. For example, hunters can only target adult coyotes. Pups, which are baby coyotes, and mothers with young are protected. These rules are meant to make sure the coyote population stays balanced. By protecting the young and the mothers, hunters do not destroy the social groups of coyotes, which helps keep the ecosystem stable. Hunting is usually done during the cooler months of the year. This is when the grasslands provide more cover, making it easier for coyotes to hide and for hunters to track them. Coyotes are most active at dawn and at dusk.
The coyote barking warns pack members to rally around the den and to intimidate the black wolf.
This means they move around more in the early morning and the evening. Hunters know this, and they choose these times to hunt. They try to use the coyotes' habits against them. For example, hunters sometimes use electronic calls that sound like a wounded animal or a rival coyote. Coyotes hear these sounds and come closer to check them out. This gives hunters a chance to get close without scaring the animals away. Hunters also need the right equipment to hunt coyotes successfully. Rifles like the Springfield are very popular. These rifles are reliable, accurate, and strong. They shoot bullets at speeds of 800 to 900 feet per second and can hit targets from 100 to 200 yards away. This allows hunters to take careful, clean shots. Hunters need to be patient and calm because coyotes are very alert. If a hunter makes a mistake, a wounded coyote could escape or become dangerous. Hunters also wear camouflage clothing to blend into the environment. Coyotes have very good senses. They can see, hear, and smell very well, so hunters must be careful not to be noticed. Some hunters use dogs to help find coyotes. Certain breeds, like Alaskan Malamutes and Siberian Huskies, are good at following scents and luring coyotes. The dogs are trained to attract the coyotes so hunters can locate them more easily. Using dogs requires a lot of care because the dogs must not get hurt. Hunters must also make sure the animals they hunt are really coyotes and not pets from nearby farms. Even with these methods, coyotes are not easy to control. Each year, about 300 to 350 coyotes are hunted and attacked. While this seems like a lot, it is only a small part of the total population. Coyotes are smart, they reproduce quickly, and they can move to new areas if there is danger. Farmers must remain alert all the time. They have to use strategy, plan carefully, and sometimes wait for hours in the cold or rain to protect their animals. Hunting is not just about shooting. It is about understanding the animals, knowing where they go, and using patience and skill to stay safe. Coyotes are clever and very adaptable. They can survive in almost any environment. For farmers, this means protecting livestock is not simple. It takes knowledge, careful planning, and continuous effort. Hunters and farmers work together to reduce the risks and protect their livelihoods. Coyotes will always be a part of rural life, but with careful management, their impact can be reduced. Understanding their habits, using the right equipment, and following ethical rules are key to keeping both people and animals safe. Now that we've seen how hunters and farmers track, study, and manage coyotes to protect their livestock, the next question is, what advanced strategies and technologies are being used to outsmart these clever predators and control their populations more effectively? Let's take a closer look. Methods and tools for managing coyotes. Managing coyote populations requires more than just effort. It requires strategy, tools, and patience. Hunters and farmers use several methods to reduce the damage caused by these predators. These methods include hunting, trapping, and using trained animals. They also include studying the coyotes to understand their behavior. Knowledge of the coyotes' habits is as important as having the right equipment. Without understanding how coyotes think and move, efforts to control them would fail. Hunting coyotes is a carefully planned activity. Hunters usually go out during the early morning or evening when coyotes are most active. This timing increases the chances of seeing and tracking the animals. Hunters use binoculars to spot coyotes from a distance. They also watch for tracks, scat, and other signs that indicate where coyotes travel. By reading these signs, hunters can predict where the animals will be. This preparation is essential because coyotes are fast and agile. They can disappear quickly if startled. Electronic calls are another tool used to attract coyotes. These devices mimic the sounds of injured prey or rival coyotes. The sounds spark curiosity in coyotes, causing them to approach to investigate. This gives hunters a chance to get closer without being noticed. The calls are especially useful in large, open fields where coyotes have room to roam. Hunters combine these calls with camouflage clothing, carefully chosen shooting spots, and patience. Waiting quietly for hours is often necessary. The Springfield rifle is commonly used because of its accuracy and reliability. It allows hunters to make precise shots at a safe distance. Accuracy is important because a clean shot ensures that the coyote is taken humanely and does not suffer unnecessarily. Hunters must also consider environmental conditions. Rain, wind, and snow can make hunting more difficult. They must adjust their methods and sometimes wait for ideal conditions. Hunting is not just about skill, it is about judgment and timing.
A wild hunter lurking in shadow.
Dogs are another key part of coyote management. Breeds like Alaskan Malamutes and Siberian Huskies are used to track, chase, or lure coyotes. The dog's natural instincts help locate the animals quickly. However, dogs must be carefully monitored. They must not be injured, and hunters must ensure they do not mistake pets for wild coyotes. Using dogs adds complexity, but can increase the success of hunting efforts. Despite all these methods, hunters are only able to remove a fraction of the population each year. About 300 to 350 coyotes are harvested annually, which helps reduce their numbers but does not eliminate them. Coyotes reproduce quickly and can adapt to new areas, so hunting alone is not enough. Farmers and hunters must continually monitor the population, protect their livestock, and adjust their strategies. They must combine knowledge, patience, and skill to stay ahead of the predators. Other preventive measures include fencing, guard animals, and habitat management. Farmers sometimes use electric fences or protective enclosures to keep coyotes away from livestock. Certain dog breeds can act as guard animals, deterring coyotes from approaching herds. Removing dense vegetation or debris around farms can reduce hiding places for coyotes. These techniques complement hunting and trapping, creating a layered defense system. The battle against coyotes is ongoing. It requires effort, cooperation, and persistence. Farmers and hunters must constantly adapt to the coyote's intelligence and cleverness. Every method, from hunting with rifles to using electronic calls and trained dogs, is part of a larger strategy to protect livestock and reduce economic losses. Coyotes may always be present, but with careful planning and ethical management, their impact can be controlled. The combination of strategy, knowledge, patience, and technology makes it possible to coexist with these clever predators. What do you think about the destruction made by the coyotes? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for joining us as we explored the world of coyotes, their cleverness, and the challenges they bring to farmers and communities. If this deep dive gave you a better understanding of these elusive predators and the strategies used to manage them, don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video on your screen to uncover more fascinating stories. See you there.